Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudite Nashtapraeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nashtiki. So continuing with the discussion on Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 8, Chapter 5, the demigods appeal to the Lord for protection. Text 33 onwards. So Lord Brahma is praying to the Supreme Lord. First he's glorifying him and then he'll ask for all the benedictions. Ambhastu yadret udara viryam siddhyanti jivanti utvardhamana loka yatho athakil lokapalaha prasidatam nahasa mahavibhutihi. The entire cosmic manifestation has emerged from water. And it is because of water that all living entities endure, live, and develop. This water is nothing but the semen of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, may the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who has such great potency, be pleased with us. Despite the theories of so-called scientists, the vast quantities of water on this planet and on other planets are not created by a mixture of hydrogen and oxygen. Rather, the water is sometimes explained to be the perspiration and sometimes the semen of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is from water that all living entities emerge, and because of water, they live and grow. If there were no water, all life would cease. Water is a source of life for everyone. Therefore, by the grace of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, we have so much water all over the world. So, in fact, the Earth's 70% of surface is covered with water. So much of water is required. In fact, our body is also, I think, 70% made up of water. And this water comes from where? Brahmaji here says it's the semen of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and Prabhupada says sometimes it is explained to be the perspiration of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But regardless, it comes from God. And this is what Brahmaji is saying, that person who has such a great potency be pleased with us. Somam mano yasya samamananti divokasam yo balamanta ayuhu isho naganam prajana prajana prasidatam nahasa mahavibhutihi. Soma, the moon, is a source of food grains, strength, and longevity for all the demigods. He is also the master of all vegetation and the source of generation for all living entities. As stated by learned scholars, the moon is the mind of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. May that Supreme Personality of Godhead, the source of all opulences, be pleased with us. Soma, the predominating deity of the moon, is a source of food grains and therefore the source of strength, even for the celestial beings, the demigods. He is a vital force for all vegetation. Unfortunately, modern so-called scientists who do not fully understand the moon describe the moon as being full of deserts. Since the moon is a source for our vegetation, how can the moon be a desert? The moonshine is a vital force for all vegetation. Therefore, we cannot possibly accept that the moon is a desert. But the scientists say, because they say, oh, we went there, we didn't see any water, and it was all desert, there was no vegetation, there was no life. But this has always been a source of contention. So moonshine is a source of food grains, strength, and longevity for all the demigods, and in fact for all living entities. And moon is considered the mind of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So may that Supreme Personality of Godhead be pleased with us. This is what Brahmaji is praying. Agnirmukham yasya tu jata veda jatah kriya kanda nimitta janma antah samudre anupachan sudhatum prasidatam nahasa mahavibhutihi. Fire, which is born for the sake of accepting oblations in ritualistic ceremonies, is the mouth of the Supreme Personality of God. Fire exists within the depths of the ocean to produce wealth, and fire is also present in the abdomen to digest food and produce various secretions for the maintenance of the body. May that supremely powerful personality of Godhead be pleased with us. So sometimes people laugh. They say, "Oh, you say there is a fire in the abdomen? Where is a fire in the abdomen? We don't see any fire." Well, how do we explain the warmth of the body? It's not that fire means it's supposed to be a lit up fire. It's the fire element is there. And here Brahmaji is saying, fire exists within the depths of the ocean. So it doesn't mean it's a lit up fire under the ocean. No, the fire element is there, and that is what produces wealth. So maybe that is the reason for the presence of pearls and other gems in the ocean. And that fire, and the fire is also present in our abdomen, and fire and produces various secretions for the maintenance of the body. I don't think any scientist has still explained how the food gets digested in the body. They say, oh, those different enzymes are secreted. But how does the secretions happen? Who does it? Okay, liver must be doing something and other organs must be doing something, but how does it happen? I don't think they can explain, or I can explain. But that fire, it is said, fire is a Jatragani, it is called. That fire in the abdomen is cause of the digestion of the food. And that fire is considered the mouth of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this is what Brahmaji is praying. May that Supreme Personality of Godhead be pleased with us. Yachakshurasit taranir devayanam traimayo brahman eshatishnayam dvaram cha mukter amritam cha mrityuhu prasidatam nah sa mahavibhutihi. The sun god marks the path of liberation, which is called Archiradi Vartma. He is a chief source for understanding of the Vedas. He is the abode where the absolute truth can be worshipped. He is a gateway to liberation, and he is a source of eternal life, as well as a cause of death. The sun god is the eye of the Lord. May that Supreme Lord, who is supremely opulent, be pleased with us. So the sun god is considered, marks a path of liberation, and that sun god is considered an eye of the Lord. So other eye is the moon, actually, moon god. The sun god is considered to be the chief of the demigods. He is also considered to be the demigod who watches the northern side of the universe. He gives help for understanding the Vedas, as confirmed in Brahma Samhita, Yat Chakshuresha Savita Sakala Grihana. The sun, full of infinite effulgence, is a king of all the planets and the image of the good soul. The sun is like the eye of the Supreme Lord. I adore this primeval Lord Govinda, in pursuance of whose order the sun performs his journey, mounting the wheel of time. The sun is actually the eye of the Lord. In the Vedic mantras, it is said that unless the Supreme Personality of Godhead sees, no one can see. Unless there is sunlight, no living entity on any planet can see. Therefore, the sun is considered to be the eye of the Supreme Lord. That is confirmed here by the words Yat Chakshurasit, and in Brahma Samhita by the words Yat Chakshuresha Savita. The word Savita means sun god. So sun, whose eye, that Supreme Personality of Godhead, whose eye is considered to be sun, may that Supreme Lord be pleased with us. Brahmaji is praying. Pranadabhuse yasya chara charanam pranaha saho balamojaschya vayuhu anvasma samrajyam ivanugavayam Prasidatam Nahasa Mahavibhutihi. All living entities, moving and non-moving, receive their vital force, their bodily strength, and their lives, their very lives from the air. All of us follow the air for our vital force, exactly as servants follow an emperor. The vital force of air is generated from the original vital force of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. May that Supreme Lord be pleased with us. So this vital force of air, which we all have to have within our body, because the air is, if the air flow is blocked somehow, so that is a cause of the pains in the joint. And the joints, if the joints don't move, we cannot go anywhere. So that is considered generated from the original vital force of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So may that Supreme Lord be pleased with us. Text 38. Shrotrad disho yasya hridascha khani prajagyire kham purushasya nabhyah pranendriyatma asu sharira ketah prasidatam nahasah mahavibhutihi. May the supremely powerful personality of Godhead be pleased with us. The different directions are generated from his ears. The wholes of the body come from his heart. And the vital force, the senses, the mind, and air within the body, and the ether, which is the shelter of the body, come from his navel. Balan Mahendra Stridasha Prasadan Manyor Girisho Shanada Virincha Khebhyastu Chandas Rishyo Nedaratah Prasidatam Nahsa Maha Vibhutihi. Mahendra, the king of heaven, was generated from the prowess of the demigods were generated from the mercy of the Lord. Lord Shiva was generated from the anger of the Lord, and Lord Brahma from his sober intelligence. The Vedic mantras were generated from the bodily wholes of the Lord, and the great saints and Prajapatis were generated from his genitals. May that supremely powerful Lord be pleased with us. So, see, Brahmaji is actually involved with creation. So he is praying to the Lord from his perspective, from his realizations. And so he's talking about all the different elements which are created. And because he is part of the creation, he is into secondary creation. So he's speaking from his realizations. And obviously wonderful realizations. Nobody else can speak like that. Shri Vakshasah Pitra Chayayasan Dharma Stanadirtaraha Prishtato Abhuta Deor Yasya Shirshno Apsaraso Vihara Prasidatam Nasa Maha Vibhutihi. The goddess of fortune was generated from his chest, the inhabitants of Pitriloka from his shadow, religion from his bosom, and irreligion, the opposite of religion, from his back. The heavenly planets were generated from the top of his head, and the apsaras from his sense enjoyment. May that supremely powerful personality of Godhead be pleased with us. So nothing in the world or in the universe, in the creation, exists without the Lord. So even irreligion comes from him, but that comes from his backside. Vipro Mukhad Brahmachayasya Guhyam Rajanya Asid Bhujayor Balam Cha Urvor Vido Jo Ahangri Veda Shudro Prasidatam Nahasa Mahavibhuti. The Brahmins and the Vedic knowledge come from the mouth of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Kshatriyas and bodily strength come from his arms. The Vaishyas and the expert knowledge and productivity and wealth come from his thighs. And the Shudras, who are outside of Vedic knowledge, come from his feet. May that Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is full in prowess, be pleased with us. Lobho atharat priti rupariyu Bhud Dhyutir Nastah Pashvyaha Sparshena Kamaha Bhruvor Yamaha Pakshma Bhavastu Kalaha Prasidatam Nasa Maha Vibhutihi. Greed is generated from his lower lip, affection from his upper lip, bodily luster from his nose, animalistic lusty desires from his sense of touch, Yamaraj from his eyebrows, and eternal time from his eyelashes. May that Supreme Lord be pleased with us. So Yamaraj is born from his eyebrows. So just moving of his eyebrows can create destruction or can kill anybody. So that is why when he says Paritranaya Sadhunam Vinayashaya Dushkritam, so he didn't have to come to kill the demons or miscreants. All he had to do, just move his eyebrows, not even move, he just has to desire. Yamaraj can go and kill anybody. So he basically comes to protect his devotees and to perform so beautiful pastimes that his devotees will relish talking about those, discussing those pastimes. Dravyam Bhaya Karma Gunana Vishesham Yadyoga Maya Vihitana Vatanti Yadurvi Bhavim Prabudha Badham Prasidatam Nasamaha Vibhuti. All learned men say that the five elements, eternal time, fruitive activity, the three modes of material nature, and the varieties produced by these modes are all creations of Yogamaya. This material world is therefore extremely difficult to understand, but those who are highly learned have rejected it. May the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the controller of everything, be pleased with us. The word Durvi Bhavyam is very important in this verse. No one can understand how everything is happening in this material world by the arrangement of the Supreme Personality of Godhead through his material energies. So how everything is happening, nobody can. Even in our bodies, so many things are happening. We don't know. Even the scientists don't. How does hair grow? No idea. Everybody has hair. How do they grow? Why the hair on the body, like hands and legs and the front and back, they grow only to a certain length. They don't grow beyond, just like hair on the head. Who directs this thing? How does it work? Nobody knows. And then when we are young, we have black hair, especially those from India. When we grow old, they become gray. Now, how and who decides how much gray hair anybody is going to have? And which hair are going to turn gray, which are still going to remain black? No criteria, actually, no particular rule is there. And scientists say we know everything. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, Maya Adhyakshena Prakriti Suyate Sacharaja. Everything is actually happening under the direction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This much we can learn, but how it is happening is extremely difficult to understand. We cannot even understand how the affairs within our body are systematically taking place. The body is a small universe. And since we cannot understand how things are happening in this small universe, how can we understand the affairs of the bigger universe? Actually, this universe is very difficult to understand. Yet learned sages have advised, as Krishna has also advised, that this material world is Dukhalayama Shashvata. That is for sure. Rest everything is difficult to understand. In other words, it is a place of misery and temporality. One must give up this world and go back home, back to the personality of Godhead. Materialists may argue if this material world and its affairs are impossible to understand, how can we reject it? The answer is provided by the word Prabhupada Badham. We have to reject this material world because it is rejected by those who are learned in Vedic wisdom. This is what the shloka says. That those who are highly learned have rejected it. It's not worth it. Even though we cannot understand what this material world is, we should be ready to reject it in accordance with the advice of the learned persons, especially the advice of Krishna. Because Krishna says, Mam upete punarjanma dukkhalayam shashvatam. After attaining me, the great souls who are yogis in devotion never return to this temporary world, which is full of miseries, because they have attained the highest perfection. One has to return home back to Godhead, for this is the highest perfection of life. To go back to Godhead means to reject this material world. Although we cannot understand the functions of this material world and whether it is good for us or bad for us, in accordance with the advice of the Supreme Personality of Supreme Authority, we must reject it and go back home, back to Godhead. It's so clearly said here. And this material world, we cannot understand. There's no way we can understand. So the point is not to get stuck here, not to get attached here, and try to go back home, back to Godhead. Namo astu tasma upashanta shakti swarajya lava pratipuritatmane guneshu maya rachiteshu ritibhir na sajjamanaya nabhas vadutaye. Let us offer our respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is completely silent, free from endeavor, and completely satisfied by his own achievements. He is not attached to the activities of the material world through his senses. Indeed, in performing his pastimes in this material world, he is just like the unattached air. We can simply understand that behind the activities of material nature is the Supreme Lord, by whose indications everything takes place. Although we cannot see him, even without seeing him, we should offer him our respectful obeisances. We should know that he is complete. Everything is done systematically by his energies, and therefore he has nothing to do. As indicated here by the word Upashanta Shakti, his different energies act, but although he sets these energies in action, he himself has nothing to do. He is not attached to anything, for he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, let us offer our respectful obeisances unto him. So we don't need to see him, how he is working. Just like in any country, we know, like in India, Prime Minister Modi is working, and here Joe Biden is working, hopefully it's working. But we cannot say, oh, let me meet Modi or let me meet Joe Biden, and then I'll try to understand if they're working. Yes, they're working because energies are working. And similarly, the Supreme Lord, we cannot demand to see him. We have to, as Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj said, we have to serve him in such a way that he wants to see us. That who is this devotee of mine who's serving me so nicely? And rather than we seeing him, even if we see him, even if he is present right before our eyes, we won't be able to even recognize him. And even though we recognize him, if there is no devotion in our heart, then what are we going to do? What are we going to say? How are we going to react? So it's not worth it, actually. The real thing is to serve him. And by serving with love and devotion, we develop love for him. We develop desire, the real, that lolyam, greed to see him. And then when he gives darshan, then we can appreciate his presence, then we can relish his beauty, relish his presence, relish his form, and have some taste, loving taste for him. That's the right seeing. Otherwise, the Lord is there as deity in the temple. He's standing there. And we go every day and we see, but we don't realize he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead standing there. So seeing him is useless until we have developed love for him. It's not useless that way. I mean, sorry to say, but like it's always wonderful to see the deity of the Lord, but we won't appreciate it until we have developed that realization, that love for Krishna. And one who has developed love for him, he sees him everywhere. There is not a single moment that he doesn't see the Lord. So we just have to serve him to the best of our capabilities. And then he will give darshan. He'll give darshan that we are hankering for. Okay, so I guess I can stop here. See anybody has any questions or comments?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
In this verse number 39.
39.
Verse number 39. Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
It's mentioned King of Heaven is Mahendra.
Mahendra, the King of Heaven.
It's mentioned in the purport, in the translation, Shloka. Mahendra, the King of Heaven, was generated from the prowess of King of Heaven, and as far as we have always heard, is Indra.
Yeah.
Now,
so Mahendra
Indra also known by the same.
Mahendra just means Indra. That's all. King Indra. I'm losing you.
I thought that
okay. No, Mahendra means King Indra only.
Okay.
Okay. So I guess we can stop here. You all have a safe and wonderful day. Hare Krishna. Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Jai Srila Prabhupada.